Good evening. My name is Buzz Eisenberg, and on behalf of President of GCC, Bob Pura, and the entire GCC community, I want to welcome you here tonight. I want to welcome the candidates, I want to welcome the panelists, the moderator, and all the citizens who are here. It's great to see such a good turnout tonight for this important mayoral debate. It's an honor for GCC to be co-sponsoring this 5-event series, and in particular to host tonight's mayoral debate and next week's town meeting forum on Thursday at 7 o'clock down in our dining commons. Bob Pura would have loved to be here tonight to welcome you, but at the moment he is right down below us, awarding well-deserved diplomas to our GED, now called HiSET graduates. And Bob has asked me to express his deep gratitude to all of you, but especially to our co-sponsors, the Recorder, WHAI, GCTV, for providing our political science students the opportunity to play meaningful roles in helping voters make the important decisions you'll be making on November 3rd. Not only have our co-sponsors provided an invaluable experience in civic engagement to our students, but each member of the debate committee and, in fact, each candidate has, without exception, has demonstrated a genuine commitment to having student perspectives be expressed in the questions that you're about to hear and the debates that you are about to take part in. Every participant deserves our heartfelt thanks in advancing our mission as educators here in Franklin County and as members of this terrific community. So at this time, enough of me. I'd like to welcome George Forcier, the Recorder editor. Thank you.
Thank you, Buzz. I guess I want to welcome you all back to the series of debates we've called Greenfield Votes 2015. I am George Forcier, the editor of the Recorder, and we're just one of the sponsors of these debates tonight. This is the fourth of 5. Some would say this is the main event, a head-to-head encounter between an incumbent mayor and his challenger. The mayor in Greenfield is the chief administrator of the town, responsible for the daily delivery of services people count on: police and fire protection, water and sewer, libraries, snow plowing. The mayor is also a member of the school committee and therefore has a voice in what happens with the public schools. But a good mayor must also be an economic development strategist, a marketer, a promoter-in-chief. So it is important who gets elected, who you vote for. That's why the Recorder and GCTV and GCC and WHAI have partnered to bring you this series. As I've said before, we're all here tonight because we believe in democracy and that democracy requires an informed electorate. But we're also all here, and I think the audience, the candidates, and the sponsors, because we care about Greenfield and because having a good mayor makes a big difference. As before, tonight's debates will be live streamed on the Recorder.com's Greenfield Votes 15 website and also on GCTV's website. And recordings of all the debates, tonight's and the ones that came earlier this month, will be available on Recorder.com in case you need to cram before the election. Our moderator tonight is Chris Collins, a longtime observer of local politics. He writes a column in the Recorder weekly on local politics. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope that this debate and the others will make for a more informed decision on November 3rd. So, to the main event. Chris?
Good evening and welcome to tonight's debate involving the two candidates for Greenfield mayor. Let's meet the candidates first. William Martin was elected mayor of Greenfield in 2009. Before that, he represented Precinct 7 on the town council. He is a past chair of the Greenfield Redevelopment Authority and has served on the planning board. He's a Greenfield native and a licensed registered nurse, a Vietnam veteran, where he served as a combat medic and he has also worked in the construction and real estate professions as well. Patty Maury Walker is a resident of High Street in Greenfield, where she lives with her wife, Kate, who is a Greenfield native. Patty is a former member of the Conway Finance Committee and ran the City of Boston's Workers' Compensation Department under Mayor Tom Menino. She last served in elected office as a Boston neighborhood councilor representing Jamaica Plain. She has worked for the past several years as an insurance claim technology consultant. Let's meet our panelists for the evening. Anita Fritz, to my immediate right, has covered Greenfield politics and government since 2007. She writes 2 columns for the newspaper, Neighbors and Walkabout. And Julia Moore of Northampton is in her 3rd semester at GCC and is an environmental science major and a member of Buzz Eisenberg's American Politics class here at Greenfield Community College, which we are happy to have assisting us with each of these debates. The format is as follows. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement. Following opening statements, candidates will be asked 3 rounds of questions by our panel. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to fashion a response per question. In the event the answers to the question are unclear or evasive, the questioners will be allowed the leeway to ask a clarifying follow-up question. I, as moderator, will also reserve the right to do that as well. At the end of the panel questions, Anita Fritz will ask each candidate 2 questions directed specifically toward them. Those candidates will have 90 seconds to respond, and their opponent, should they choose, will also have 30 seconds for rebuttal at the end of the response. The candidates will then have a chance to ask each other questions in a Lincoln Douglas-style format. Each candidate will be allowed to ask 2 questions, after which they and their opponent will be allowed 2.5 minutes to openly debate the issue. I'm not going to time either the questions or the answers. The intent here is to have a real debate and allow these candidates to truly interact with one another. At the end of Lincoln Douglas, I may ask a few additional questions in a lightning round submitted by the audience, and there are people from Buzz's class walking around with cards. If you have a question you'd like to have asked, write it down on the card. We'll be vetting them as the evening goes on. During the lightning round, each candidate will receive 1 minute to fashion a response. Following all the questioning, each candidate will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. I'm going to ask the audience, as I have in all of these debates, to refrain from applauding or making any noises or gestures which may distract from or in any way impact the tenor and flow of the discussion. At the end of the forum, I'll ask for a round of applause in appreciation of the candidates and the democratic process. We are going to go, I believe, since we didn't flip a coin or anything, so we're going to go in alphabetical order to start the opening statements. So we'll start with Mayor Martin, and then Patty Maury Walker, and then at the end, Patty, you'll get the first statement, and the mayor will get the last one. Mayor Martin, 2 minutes, opening statement.
Thank you, Chris. You took most of my opening statements with that resume.
That seems to be a trend in these debates.
But I do appreciate the notation. My name is Bill Martin. I serve as the mayor of Greenfield. I've been the mayor since 2009. Greenfield has made great progress during our administration. We have moved some new people in to positions that have caused the town to accomplish many successes, from green community to solar farms and many others that I'm sure we'll get to later on. I've said in the beginning in 2009 that I was uniquely qualified to be mayor, and that was because I was a native of Greenfield, had the experience in small businesses that I started in town, and had done some development in housing and industrial areas. The opportunity to prove that came when I was elected, and we were able to make great progress. I would like to continue as mayor. The job is not done. I've been very impressed with our accomplishments, and I'm very proud to represent the city of Greenfield when I go to other parts of Massachusetts. The mayors in Western Massachusetts have selected me as their District 1 representative on the Local Government Advisory Committee, which allows Greenfield to have really a front desk and table voice in Boston, as well as direct communication with our senior part of our government. So I'm looking forward to November 3rd. I really appreciate the coalition that's been put together with the Recorder, GCTV, WHI, and GCC to bring this community event to everyone by way of live TV and by way of the GCC areas here. That is kind of like the the point of what we do around here. We're not strong as individuals, we're not strong as groups, but when we put ourselves and our strengths together, we become a force that can make Greenfield proud. So hoping you will support me and vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Patty Maury Walker.
Hi
2
there.
minutes.
Good evening. I am proud to be offering the voters of Greenfield a choice in this upcoming mayoral election. I do live on High Street with my partner and with our children. We chose to make Greenfield our home, back to where Kate was born and raised. My son Stefan is a senior at the high school. I have a master's degree from Boston University, and I would bring to the office, the mayor's office, a background in both the public and private sectors. I led a city department in Boston where I managed a multi-million-dollar department, worked closely with unions, employees, and management to implement successful programs while reducing taxpayer expense. I have started and run my own business in this Commonwealth. For the past several years, I have worked in the private sector in the insurance and technology field. I have also held elected office as a neighborhood councilor. I served on the Finance Committee in Conway, and I've worked and run on several political campaigns. Most recently, I was the Franklin County coordinator for the Maura Healey campaign, our new Attorney General. I'm running for mayor because I would like to lead Greenfield to having a more open, collaborative, and compassionate government, one with more transparency in operations and finance. Some great things have happened in Greenfield under Mayor Martin's tenure, but I'm ready to take Greenfield to the next level by offering a collaborative leadership style to bridge all stakeholders of Greenfield as we head to a more sustainable future. I will apply my past experience to strengthen our town services and its community. As someone unencumbered by any political ties, I would bring a fresh and innovative voice to the mayor's office. I'll have an open door and a place at the table for all. A more aggressive approach to economic development to reduce the tax rate, more out-of-the-box thinking to grow economically, an executive management approach to running our town to ensure top-notch city services is what I would bring to the job of mayor. Schools, services for our youth and seniors, ideas on how we will deal with our opioid problem. These are all issues I hope we'll be able to discuss in this forum tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Once again, I'm going to ask you to refrain from applause, but I understand. This is a passionate event. It could be the guys talking to one another in the cameras. We'll try and have them turn that down a little bit. Okay, let's go to the questions portion from our panelists. The first question will go from Anita Fritz, and it will go to Mayor William Martin.
Good evening, candidates. What is your approach to economic development? Is it more a build it, if you build it, they will come, or let them come and we will build it? In either case, how do you get them here? And what type of developments do you think are best for Greenfield on the fringes in the industrial park on Federal Street?
90 seconds.
Thank you. The approach is both, actually. So the initial idea is to prepare the environment and the infrastructure for businesses to come to town. We have a number of opportunities. What we've done with the Bendix property is taking full title and cleaning up the site. What we've done with the Federal Street Lund property is utilizing funds to clean up that site. The opportunity to facilitate and accommodate the specific needs of the businesses is very important, and a trained workforce and housing are other amenities that businesses look for in our area.
Okay, Patty Maury Walker, 90 seconds.
Thank you for the question, of course, a very important one. I also think, of course, that the town's infrastructure and its processes need to be in place in order to support businesses when they arrive. I also believe, however, that we need to be proactive and have a marketing approach to identifying businesses that will come and satisfy the needs of our socioeconomic folks that we have here in Greenfield. I would make sure that I have a full-time experienced economic development experienced marketing professional by my side to go out and to bring in business. I think there's a lot of alternative type of things happening in Greenfield, which is very exciting. Yes, we need traditional industry, but we also have some co-ops that are going on, and we have the business incubators, we have the beverage center, the food processing center. Those are the kind of place that I think we can really market the town with. I think going to colleges and to, of course, we live in a college mecca, to entice the millenniums to come here. Of course, we have our farming community that would also be enticing for younger folks to come here, young professionals. I'd like to learn from some of the mistakes that we've made. New England Bakers, unfortunately, decided to take their business to Deerfield. The Conway School of Landscape Design was looking for an urban site, and unfortunately, they decided on East Hampton. Scuderi Power was looking to come here with several hundreds of jobs, and unfortunately, they went elsewhere. I would like to learn from these mistakes and apply them going forward.
Thank you, Patty. That's time. Okay, the next question goes to Patty Maury-Walker from Julia Moore.
There's a proposed parking structure for Greenfield at an estimated cost of $10 million. In light of the property tax increase because of the new high school and the uncertainty of grant assistance, will the benefits of the parking facility be worth the increased tax burden?
That's a great question. We do have the new courthouse being built, and of course that's going to require some serious parking. And the issue that I have with the current parking plan is that we have dedicated money for it. Unfortunately, we don't know how it's going to be built yet. And that's a concern. I think that if we're going to make a plan such as the senior center and say we're going to have a senior center next summer, how is it going to be paid for? That's the kind of thing I'd be worried about. I don't know for sure if we need such a site. I am concerned, of course, about the taxpayer burden. But again, the hope is that we will bring more people to Greenfield. And so having a structure like that would be helpful. However, I want to make sure we know for sure before we delve into it how it's going to be paid.
Thank you, Patty. And Mayor Martin, 90 seconds.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer about the parking garage. The East District, which is the east zone around that area of Greenfield, has been described since 2001 as a critical area for parking. With the building of the courthouse on their parking lot, it really accelerated the situation with the passenger train rail. We are obligated to provide parking for Amtrak, and we are also obligated to provide parking for the historic district where we have rehabilitated some of the second, third floors into residential. So the state should have paid for it, and the federal government should have paid for it, and the town taxpayers are not going to pay for it. So we either get a grant that will bring it up to the point where the revenue from the garage produces a revenue bond that allows us to build and run the parking garage, or we can't build it. The senior center, again, it's been in the master plan for several years. It's been around discussion with the town council and the council on aging for 15 years. So we are in process of doing that. That is going to be a taxpayer-funded project. If anybody who doesn't want to pay taxes for the seniors, then I'm sorry about that. But we owe them a place. We have an obligation. We spend $18 million on schools from K through 12, and we also provide and support a number of organizations in town for everyone who wants to participate in our activities. The senior center is very important. It has been my priority for 2.5 years when I announced it to the Council on Aging, and we're well on our way. We have a project manager selected, a architectural firm selected, and are actually 3 architectural firms will be interviewed in the coming weeks.
Thank you, Mayor. That's 90 seconds. Since you've been so good on time, I'm going to ask a follow-up on the parking garage question. I'll give you each 30 seconds to respond. Starting with you, Mayor. Last night, the Greenfield Town Council voted to essentially allow a $10 million borrowing authority for that garage. You say that it's going to be funded through grants. What happens if the grants aren't available? What do you do at that point? 30 seconds.
As I stated, the number for the parking garage, the bond council had advised that the entire project has to be voted by the town and the town council, and that was done last evening. The grant of $5 million set aside that we have in the bond bill, transportation bond bill, and the $2.5 million application that we have now with Mass Works, with the decision to be made by the first week in December, that will determine how much we borrow from the revenue bond, which will be in the name of the parking authority.
Thank you, Mayor. Patty Maury-Walker, if you are elected mayor, how will you deal with that? situation?
Well, again, I think it is important to have the parking for the courthouse, and it's a good point, Mayor. We definitely need the parking for the transportation center. My issue with it, with the money that was passed yesterday, is we do not know how this is going to get paid. I'd be very careful about delving into multi-million-dollar projects unless I know how it was going to be paid. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, now let's go to the second round of questions, and this one goes to, I believe it's Mayor Martin again? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Mayor Martin from Anita Fritz.
There's been a lot of talk about and/or movement toward privatizing or regionalizing services that the town has provided over the years. Some examples include assessor duties, veterans office, and most recently dispatch. What are your views on both, and why do you believe they would work or not work?
Right. Well, we have a really formal organization called the Franklin County Council of Governments, which is the major regionalization of government in Franklin County. So for Greenfield, we don't need to compete on that basis with all of the different amenities that the town provides. But there are other outside and external forces that must put Greenfield in a position to make a decision or not make a decision. So for the Veterans Resource and Referral Center, it was an idea that we had 3 years ago. It took us that long to get everything through the council and the state, agreement from the state, and then finally from all of the towns in Franklin County. So that provides a service for veterans and their families in a very coordinated, professional way, and allows the veteran to have a central place in Greenfield. And we also provide the service outside of the town. For the dispatch, there is a regionalization movement across the state to regionalize dispatch communications. We did a feasibility study 5 years ago with the Council on Governments, and it was determined that Greenfield should be the one to regionalize, or Greenfield should be the one to partner with Montague. Montague doesn't want to partner. We really aren't going to partner with Shelburne because they're the state. So our opportunity is to regionalize ourselves and have partner with a private entity or go with a regional situation like Worcester or Shelburne, which is both of them that are not to our liking.
That's 90 seconds. Patty Murray Walker, 90 seconds for a response.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's something that I'm actually would love to take a close look at if elected mayor. I do question the decision to privatize assessing. I think initially, well, I know initially that the price was the same for the salary that person had at the time in the Mayflower who came in. However, that's not the same anymore. But the point is, the problem with that is I don't think we're getting the same services as we were getting when we did have the assessor. I think it's comparing apples to, not comparing apples to apples, it's apples to oranges. As far as dispatch, most towns around us are doing the opposite of what we're thinking to do. They're taking their privatized ambulance and dispatch services and bringing them in-house, and in fact, they become cost centers, and so they're actually making money as they do drops for the non-emergency type of work. I'm concerned about the union there. The union is concerned. I've talked to several folks of dispatches. One woman, I knocked on her door and she spoke with me for 45 minutes. She can't sleep at night. She's worried about her job. She's worked for the town for several years. The problem is it could be that this is a grand idea. The problem is that the information is not getting through to the people who are doing the work, and that's not fair. There's already an unfair labor practice that's been filed in this, so now we're talking about attorney fees. I just think we should take a really hard look at what we do as far as privatizing instead of devoting our energy and resources in the people that work for the town.
Thank you, Patty. Now we'll go to the next question, which will go from Julia Moore to Patty Murray Walker.
Do you believe that revitalizing the business district of downtown Greenfield is a priority? And if elected, what are some of the specific ways your office would facilitate changes?
Absolutely, it's a priority, and yes, there's been some good things. I think though that unfortunately there's still too much business turnover downtown, and there's still too many empty storefronts. How do we do it? Again, I'm going to go back to what was actually mentioned in the sustainability plan, that we need to market ourselves, that We need to utilize the chamber. We need to support more our GBA, the Business Association, and go out and reach out and target particular businesses that are going to entertain and bring in our youth, for example. I said this the other day. It would be wonderful to have a place like Faces downtown. I see the Deerfield students being dropped off, and the Mount Herman folks Northfield Mount Herman folks, kids being dropped off to hang out in their local downtown, which is Greenfield. There's not much for them to do. And I see them with CVS bags, instead of a place where they could be entertained, and that's bringing in, of course, revenue. There's a parent that I know that says, Patty, I don't go downtown. It's nothing to do with my little kids. I think that we can go out there and target specific businesses and market for ourselves, because we're a great place to bring in these businesses to satisfy these different diverse pockets of folks that we have here in Greenfield.
Thank you, Patty. Those weren't plastic CVS bags, were they? Yeah. We're going to get to that later, don't worry. Mayor Martin, 90 seconds.
Yeah, the reason DA, Deerfield Academy, and NMH, North Mount Herman come to Greenfield is because it is a great place. They bring their students here. Stoneleigh drives their students down here too. They are able to go shopping, go into the restaurants, and enjoy the camaraderie of downtown Greenfield. It is a safe place. It doesn't have anything to do with unsafe areas. The question had to do with what are you going to do with the priority of downtown Greenfield. The fact is, that was one of my priorities and has always been to strengthen downtown Greenfield while we have the opportunity to, because there is going to be expansion of commercial and other areas on French King Highway and the Rotary. So that's going to happen. It's already zoned. The land is being has been permitted, and the other interested parties in the Rotary area are in town looking. So that's going to happen. But the more we strengthen downtown and make it our niche area where we have opportunity and choices, restaurants and creative entertainment, then we will be able to compete with anything that happens around Greenfield. It's not around our parts of Greenfield. It's not going to be any competition in other parts of Franklin County. So we are the capital, we are the center, and we must strengthen our areas of strength, which is downtown Greenfield. I've been doing it since I've been elected, have not deterred from that sense.
One follow-up I'm going to ask, since we've been so good on time with this question, is one of the council candidates, Isaac Bass, brought up the idea of building taller buildings in downtown. I'll give you each 30 seconds to address that idea. Patty Moore-Walker, starting with you. Should Greenfield build up downtown?
With all due respect to Councilor Mass, I think it's a terrible idea. I think it would ruin the character and the history of our town. There are other ways that we could do that. I can't even imagine a 10-story building in downtown Greenfield.
Mayor Martin, your thoughts?
We have a height bylaw now, so it's only 50 feet, but depends where you are. So if you're at the transportation center looking at the back of the Garden Theater, it's about 70 feet. So it's all a matter of proportion, and wherever it goes, it might be less than a steeple, so then that's a possibility. The real question is what will be in there. We have a deficit in office space. It may seem a little strange, but when the courthouse moves out of downtown Main Street, there's going to be new space available, and we don't have plans. We have plans, but there's been no public plans and discussion about it, and that's what's going to be very important for maintaining the energy and the inventiveness of downtown Greenfield.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, let's go to the third round of questions in this round, and Edith Fritz will ask this question to Mayor Martin.
Last year, the town's certified free cash surplus was more than $3 million. This year, it's $2.8 million. Some believe it should be put in savings, others believe it should go back to the taxpayers, and still others believe it should be put in OPEB. How do you believe such a large amount of free cash surplus should be used, and why?
Yeah, that is a great question, because there's so many interpretations for that. So last year it was $3.2 million, and this year it was $2.8 million. So that's $6 million in 2 years of certified free cash by the Department of Revenue. The question most asked is, why don't you give it back to the taxpayers? Well, it's not all the taxpayers' money that was in the operating budget. So just take this year. This year was $2.8 million. Only about $1 million of it was in this year's budget. So that means we have been able to save $1 million out of a $46.5 or $45 million budget. The idea that this money can automatically go back doesn't exist. There's no law where you can give a rebate to the taxpayer. What I said last year was that you need to put the money in stabilization accounts. When you design and craft a new budget, then in the next year you are able to take that money out and give it to for the reduction of the tax rate. And that's how we keep the whole idea of decreasing the tax rate and expanding the tax base. So this year with the $2.8 million, and we're going to recommend next Monday at the chairs meeting and to the council next month to put the money in different accounts of stabilization so that we will have the same opportunity to apply cash to the budgets of 2017.
Thank you, Mayor. Patty Murray Walker, 90 seconds.
Thank you for the question. You know, there was that did come in front of the council, and it was absolutely a no-brainer to go ahead and put that money in stabilization. And no, there isn't a direct way to refund the money to the taxpayer. The question around this, all around this, though, is why is our tax rate so high in the first place? And if there is this money that we have, and there is ability to come up with money from funds for $90,000 for a heating system, for example, I just don't understand the spending. The two ways to bring down the tax rate is to increase the tax base, which of course means economic development, and to look at our spending and try to cut it. And that's what I would love to get a look at when I become mayor, is to go in there and figure out where this money is coming from and where it's going, and really take a hard look at it. It's very confusing to me, and I'm sure it's very confusing to a lot of you out there. The fact of the matter is, if the economy was bustling and we had so much going on, our tax rate wouldn't be the way that it is now. So something that would absolutely be a priority for me. Thank you.
I'm going to follow up one thing on this, because last night at the council meeting, Budget Director Lane Kelly presented a report to the council which found a number of town departments gave back money. And that's part of the reason why that free cash number is $2.8 million. Mayor and Patty, 30 seconds each to respond to this. Will you commit now, if you win, to cutting those budgets back to what those levels were supposed to be?
We've already given out the instructions for the 2017 budget, and that was the instruction to level fund every department, and then we get that returned budget request from each department head and review the priorities and the available revenues. Don't forget, we do a budget in January and February, and the state doesn't do a budget till May. Our revenues are guessed at by the governor and the legislature around March. So we use our historical analysis of revenues, and we've been very good, very close to 100% estimating on the revenues. But we've been doing very good. People want to keep downplaying Greenfield. The economy is doing wonderful. People are working. We've created jobs, hundreds of jobs in Greenfield in the last 5 years. We've kept businesses that were thinking of leaving, we've kept them here. I'm sorry.
That's okay. But Patty, I'm going to afford you a minute, because that's what the mayor took.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Chris, good question. I think that what I would do first of all is to utilize my management experience and take a hard look at the processes of each department to find out if there are indeed any efficiencies. I know that some departments are actually, pulled very, very tight. Take recreation as an example. This is an organization that has 2.5 people that put on so many festivals, that do summer camps all summer for the kids, that do their own grants. All of the playgrounds and all those structures that are popping out are done because the recreation department is writing their own grants. So I think what I would need to do first is to really take a hard look at, what is going on within these departments, work with the managers, work with the employees, and try to see if there's any efficiencies, and then make decisions about who should be level funded, who needs more, or who needs less.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to the final question for this round. It'll go from Julia Moore to Patty Murray Walker.
In Franklin County, there's been a documented increase of the use of heroin and other opioids, as well as related overdoses. This particularly impacts the demographic of 18 to 25-year-olds. What actions are being taken to address these issues, and what support is available?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question. We had a really bad summer when in 1 week we lost 3 people to heroin overdoses. It's such a strike on our recovery community. There are some good things happening, though, which is very encouraging. The Communities That Care Coalition is an amazing group that brings together nonprofits that are working with kids, and their sole mission is to try to decrease the use of drugs, alcohol, and tobacco use amongst their kids. And the surveys have found out that they're actually making progress there. The one drug that is marijuana that is going up, but every other one is going down. And I think that the heroin problem, it starts with these other drugs and then moves on to that. I'm very grateful for the work of the Opioid Task Force. I think they're doing an amazing job. The places like the Recover Center. So there are facilities out there, but we do need to keep a close eye and give them the support that they need. We need to look at prevention. We need to look at treatment, and we need to look at recovery. We do have a treatment center coming. The problem being that we need more long-term treatment. That's one of the gaps that I think we really have. We can have a detox in short term, but where the real problem comes in is when folks come out of those kinds of places and go back into the real world and back into neighborhoods and back into all the temptations, and that's where they need more support. Again, I do commend the work of the task force and of Recover Projects and other places in Greenfield that are really doing some amazing work.
Thank you. Mayor Martin, 90 seconds.
Yeah, we had 2 years ago, Senator Markey asked me to join him in Taunton, Mass., which was at that time a very critical opiate crisis, and they were launching a program on a federal level and on the city level of Taunton. I joined him there, and I also joined him in Holyoke. The task force was working in Greenfield, putting together their plan to do something in our local area. We have an issue, but so do all the communities in Massachusetts and in New England and in Virginia and Kentucky and so on. So this is a basic problem of numerous factors across the United States and disciplines. So the idea that we can do anything here is important because Chris Herron, the basketball player, said the thing we need are treatment beds. So we lobbied and worked with the task force and worked through a very convoluted, very difficult process with bankruptcy court and different owners and an industrial contaminated site on Greenfield. We're able to bring in the EPA for nearly $1 million of cleanup, protect the neighborhood, and prepare that site for 65 beds of treatment, some detox, some long-term. So they are in the process of hiring 65 people now. Those are jobs also, and there will also be the tax base. But most importantly, we will have a regional center to take care of treatment issues. As a psychiatric nurse, I've worked nearly 2 decades with dual diagnosis patients. Those are mental and substance abuse patients. There is a long road for recovery. We have some local groups that offer the support, and we can do our local people some good, so we're going to do it. I've always said from the beginning, you can't define a problem and not design a solution to it. We've done that, and we're working with the federal and state officials as well.
Okay, that's time. I want to ask a follow-up on this because obviously the treatment center is a good thing, and I'm not sure what the town can do specifically in terms of new programs, but you are, as the mayor, if you're elected, going to be the town's chief cheerleader. And there's no question that Greenfield has a reputation for being a place to not only get drugs, but to do drugs. You see it all over town. I, for the first time, ever saw a syringe on Federal Street when walking last year, and it really kind of freaked me out. What do you say to the people of Greenfield, and how are you going to work as mayor to change that image? And I'll give you each a minute to address this. Mayor first.
The primary thing we have to do is offer the education and bring the coalition of agencies we have in town to work together. That's happening. The task force is taking the lead on this, working with the DA's office and the sheriff's office. There are a number of opportunities in the development phase right now. The missing ingredient in the continuum of care is going to be based in the long-term residential areas, so that we would need to have somewhere within the county a place where people could live and work. So about 3 years ago, John Counter and I, with the Housing Authority, wanted to try out a new program which would have been providing beds, but the beds wouldn't just be for sleeping. They would come with a job. So when the occupant came in through the treatment program, went into that bedroom, they had a job and they were supported already. That's something that still has the possibilities of working on, but the opioid task force now has that building we're looking at.
Thank you, Mayor. And Patty, a minute on this.
It's difficult for me, but I am going to go ahead and say that I don't think you'll find a better cheerleader for this issue because I myself am in recovery. I of course can really relate and really feel the pain of the people who are in Greenfield and suffering with this issue. There are some programs that are losing funding. I would like to try to do anything I can to make that not happen so that they don't go away. There is a problem everywhere, but there's still a significant problem here in Greenfield. And I tell you, that week was really hard for the recovery community when 3 people overdosed, and one was in one of the treatment facilities, one of the recovery centers that we gather. And you're right about that, Chris. It's not only on this issue, but there's a lot of issues that the mayor should be a cheerleader. And that's what I would dedicate myself to doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Patty. Okay, that ends that round of questioning. Now we're going to go to the second round. Now, Anita Fritz was good enough to write some questions to go to each specific candidate. Now, the way this is going to work is Anita will ask the question to the candidate it was written for, and the other candidate will have 30 seconds to respond to the candidate who's ending the question's 90-second response, so 90 and 30. So let's start off with Patty Murray Walker. Anita, your first question.
You've said the town's youth, schools, and school superintendent will have your unwavering support. You've mentioned hiring a youth commissioner and building a skate park and youth center. You've also said you want to hire a full-time professional economic development director. How will the town pay for all of this without increasing taxes? Where would you cut if you needed to accomplish these goals? Sorry, all the questions. And how would you increase revenues?
And if you have to have it repeated, feel free, and she'll repeat it.
Okay. It has been a mantra of mine that I think that it was a bad move to close the youth center in this town. Considering the conversation we just had about the drug issues and the temptations for kids, I think we need more for our kids than less. That itself, I don't think will cost the town anything. There is a facility that had that place that was housing the youth center, and that place is still available. Yes, some offices moved in, but I took a tour of that place, and the place where the youth center actually was is still an empty spot. I said before that the skate park, I think we can do grants. I think we need to work with Turner's Falls, who successfully were able to bring back a skate park to their town. As far as cuts, I know it's difficult for me, but I talked before that one of the first things I'd like to do is to go in and to look at the departments, how they're operating, and see if there's any efficiencies and any ways that we can save money. I also don't know about, we do have money again that we can come up with to pay for a portable heating system and other things, and I'm wondering where that money is coming from. And it's about setting priorities and where we make an investment. And I think an investment in our youth is always a good thing.
Mayor, you can have 30 seconds to respond to that if you'd like.
Yeah, I almost want to have you repeat the question.
Okay.
Because I want to touch on the number 2. Go ahead.
Okay. So she has said that youth schools and school superintendent will have unwavering support. She's mentioned hiring youth commissioner, building youth center, skate park, and would hire a professional economic development director. How will the town pay for all of this? Where would you cut if you needed to accomplish those goals? And how would you increase revenues?
So that was a mouthful, wasn't it? Let's go right to the Sanderson Street property. So when I was first elected, we were scattered around, and we were trying to find underutilized property, and we found the Sanderson Street as being an underutilized property. We're shrinking the footprint of Greenfield, and we moved offices in there. We did that because we didn't have any place to put the people that were in the annex, which had poor air quality and was a contaminated building. We found that out in more of a more of a serious and scientific way shortly thereafter. But we did move the people out. We renegotiated with the state legislature to change the lease on with the DCAM from youth services to community and youth services, so that we could use that building for municipal uses. That's what we did, and we moved people in there. The revenues section is all about making things happen on a number of different levels so that we can provide money for the ideas and the innovation and entrepreneurism that takes place within the town government. We have great employees.
That's time, Mayor. I'm going to make an executive decision right now that the responses are going to be a minute, because I don't know how you respond in 30 seconds to one of these questions. All right, so the next question will go to Mayor Martin, and you will have 90 seconds, and Patty will have 60 seconds to respond. Go ahead.
Okay, the town is in the process of doing feasibility studies or seeking grants for a new senior center, library, public safety complex, and municipal parking garage. Some of this year's candidates, including your opponent, have also mentioned the town's need for a youth center. How would you prioritize these projects, and what is your vision for getting them done, including when, and how would they be paid for?
Right. Our capital plan is set. It's at least 12 months in advance. We've got this year approved, of course, and the second year is right now in the process of being looked at. So the senior center is a priority 1. The public safety complex is a priority 2 because of the access to the fire station is an issue. The police department is a saleable property, and they, with the regionalization of dispatch and duties that they have, we would be moving to another location. That can be, the senior center is going to be paid for by a bond. The public safety complex, there are a couple different sources of funding there, but with the regionalization, there are access to millions of dollars of grant funds to do that. The youth center it's in the master plan. It's number 6. So the sustainability plan that we just did a couple years ago placed the youth center and activities in the number 6 position. The library is already in process of selecting a site in the feasibility study. That funding comes from a 50% grant from the state and some money from raising funds, and the balance would be from the taxpayer. So we have an obligation. I've said, excuse me, over and over again that
Okay.
over and over again that our time, excuse me, our time is, we're responsible for this time. Our institutions and our infrastructure is old. It's 100 years old. You can just look around at the Grange, the Elks, the Moose Club, a number of organizations in Greenfield. They're 100 years old. We've been around here a long time. It's our generation to take care of, replace, repair the infrastructure and the institutions that need their care right now.
Thank you, Mayor. Patty, 60 seconds to respond.
Sure. Yes, senior center is definitely a priority. The sustainability plan is a wonderful plan. Like the mayor just said, though, it was written a few years ago, and things are constantly changing. And I think our youth needs to still be a priority. Police center, speaking to the folks at the library just a couple weeks ago, and unfortunately, they were telling me that they're not going to be, they don't have a site in place or a final project in place for 5 years down the line, and it was just kind of hard to hear. She was optimistic, though. But anyway, the bottom line with all of this is that we do not know how any of this is being paid for. Mayor, you said the other day that when you announced that the senior center would be at the Davis Street site, you also said that you didn't know how it was going to be paid for. That's a problem. It's a problem for the seniors, it's a problem for the youth, the public safety, and the library. And it's something I think we need to be very careful about promising, that we're going to have these things when we don't yet know how we're paying for them.
Thank you, Patty. Okay, next question goes from Anita Fritz to Patty Maury Walker.
Okay. The town has been all about sustainability over the past few years, with the green community, becoming a green community, creating a new sustainable master plan, offering green electricity to residents and businesses, creating a number of green initiatives, numerous upgrades to municipal buildings, and more. You have promised a more sustainable Greenfield. What does that mean? And please be specific about your ideas and how you pay for them again.
90 seconds.
Yeah, sure. Yes, we've definitely done some, and I commend you, Mayor, we've done some really good green initiatives and accomplished things, and I have to give a ton of credit to the Green and Greenfield organization, who has written the grants and done the work and done the legwork and have contributed significantly, of course, to the sustainability plan. So there are definitely some good things that are going on. There's always more. Of course, there's always more. The plastics issue is up for coming on the ballot for a non-binding for people to weigh in on whether that's a good thing for the town. I think banning plastic bags is a good thing for the town. The solar challenge is a good project. Unfortunately, I tried to participate in that, and I was told that I had to come up with, I think it was like $15,000 down in order to do it, which was unfortunate because it's something I definitely would love to do in my home. So I would like to take a look at other programs that are maybe more affordable so that more people can do solar. I would love to work more with the farms, Just Roots, farm to school programs, composting in the schools. A lot of these initiatives that are in the sustainability plan don't even really cost much money at all. And those are the ones, that kind of low-hanging fruit, I'd love to focus on.
Okay. Mayor Martin, 60 seconds.
Yeah, the low-hanging fruit is really hard work, so there is no low-hanging fruit in sustainability. It's independence. You have to work continuously toward independence. For instance, Just Roots. When we did the APR for that town-owned land, we were able to receive $202,000, where we gave Just Roots $25,000 a year for 4 years so that they could work part of that land, bring it back. There are a number of examples. The town is always involved. Green and Greenfield does a fine job. They didn't do it by themselves. They did it with our planning department. They did it with a number of other assistants from the state, including the mayor's office. So I look forward to working with all the groups in town. We do work with all the groups in town, and to say that there's sustainability is a matter of planning ahead, being prepared, and doing the things now. Oftentimes it's risk-taking, and it's entrepreneurial, and it's very innovative. We have a reputation for doing that in the past 5 and 6 years. We have a reputation at the state level for being best practices in a number of areas. And we would need more time than this evening to go through each one individually.
Thank you, Mayor. And that's time. So the final question for this round, we'll go to Mayor Martin first, and he'll have 90 seconds to respond, and Patty Murray Walker will get a 60-second rebuttal.
I think I already
Ran out of
The
questions.
top question is the one, that's the one.
Oh, that's right. Do you believe the town, sorry. Do you believe the town's recent decision to install a heating system in the school administration building on Davis Street before asking town council to approve the money was a violation of the town's charter like some councilors have charged? Why or why not?
Yeah, no, it was not a violation. We recommended to the council with that motion last night, the requested order, to take the money out of the sale of town-owned land. When we sell town-owned land, it goes into this account by law, sale of town-owned land. You can't take money out of that account unless you use it for something the town owns. So it's a very strict in and out process for that account. That was our best choice. We have other choices to use to get the money from. We have, it's going to be announced Monday. We're going to receive $185,000 for the energy incentives from Eversource for our high school, which is a premier, probably silver lead high school. But we have other accounts in town that we can also use the money for. We were trying to take the best move and taking it out of the best account so we didn't shrink any other budget.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And Patty Murray Walker?
Two things about that issue. First of all, the money was, the original intent of the money was to come from a fund that had to be approved by the city council. The mayor did ask the city council to review that. It went to Ways and Means. It was rejected, and it went to the full council last night when it was rejected again. The problem with this is that the money was requested at the same time the work was already being done. As of last night, tonight, the heat is already on before the council had a chance to even vote on it. If it could have come from other funds, then I don't know why it didn't. Why did it have to go through that process? And it's questionable whether that violated the charter. The other piece of this is that why did we need it in the first place? If you look at the last several school committee meetings and the way that there's just not communication or collaboration, and the fact is that the work didn't get done for them to move to another site in time, which is why we had to rely on a $90,000 out of the budget in order to pay for it. One thing I would absolutely pay attention to and focus on is working collaboratively as a member of the school committee with the school superintendent and with that committee to get these things done. What happened is absolutely inexcusable.
Okay, that will do it for that round of questioning. Now we're going to go into the Lincoln Douglas part of our program. Now, I know that you guys did this at 22 News the other night, the other day. This is not going to be like that debate because we're not going to time your answers. The way this is going to work is you're each going to have a chance to ask each other questions. And what we'll do is we'll block out 2.5 minutes after the question is asked, and you can actually have a debate. There's not going to be, other than the 2.5 minute time limit, there's not going to be a time limit on how long you speak. This is intended to see how you guys interact and also what you believe to be the important issues that your opponent needs to answer. So we're going to start off. Patty Moore Walker will ask the first question of Mayor Martin, and then we'll have a 2.5 minute debate.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, so at our Channel 22 debate this week, Mayor, I asked you a question about how you've used your leadership to welcome the increasing population of people of color in Greenfield. One of your responses to that was that we haven't had any discretionary hearings against the city in this matter. Because this is a very important issue for me, and I think a lot of people in Greenfield, I want to ask you this again. As I engage with our community, I'm hearing that people of color are feeling alienated and marginalized. I heard a testimony just the last school committee meeting about an example of that. As a community, how do we do better, and how would you lead us in such an effort if reelected?
The idea that we do not attend to or follow the laws in the Commonwealth and the federal government regarding diversity is ludicrous. It's almost automatic. Everyone in every department in town, the hiring process is equal employment opportunity and no discrimination in every form. Whether there is diversity in the schools that has been brought up to the school committee recently, one of the school committee members is questioning the hiring process in the schools. We don't do the hiring for the schools. That's a completely autonomous situation. For the town of Greenfield and all our hiring, it's wide open all the time, equal opportunity. How are we going to help these different populations? We work with them. There are a number of ethnic groups in Greenfield, and we work closely with them. The Housing Authority works closely with them. I work closely with several groups of immigrants that have come to town. They're a very powerful and principled group. I don't see any issues in discrimination whatsoever in Greenfield.
First of all, I didn't say anything about whether we're following laws, and I actually didn't even talk about the hiring process. I'm talking about people who live in this community. And I don't think you or I, as white privileged folks, could actually say whether there is discrimination in Greenfield. We don't know. I am hearing from people of color that there is a problem. And the other question I asked you was, how would you use your leadership to help to have these folks feel more welcome and more part of our community? And there are indeed some good groups that I would absolutely engage with, and Racial Justice Rising, Black Lives Matters, the Community Action Program, local churches, and others. The schools are actually implementing the responsive classroom. They have the responsive classroom, as you know, and part of that is inclusion, the study of inclusion. And so that's great, and I would support that more. So again, it's not about the law, about hiring, about discretionary practices. I don't think that's what I was talking about at all. I was talking about making people feel more welcoming in a community where we have a growing population of diverse folks.
I would say that that's a manufactured issue. I deal with people of
Oh, I'm sorry I have to
A group
interrupt,
of
but the
people.
for the
You're gonna
folks
let
of
me
color,
finish?
folks of
I
color,
deal
no,
with a
actually,
number of
for the
groups
folks of color who
who come
heard
to
that
town
statement
on
right
it
now,
closely.
that heard that statement right now, that it's a manufactured issue. The people of color hearing that issue right now, I feel for you.
Well, you can feel for me, but the idea is
Not
that
for you,
we were
for them,
working with
not for
all
you,
of the
for them.
all of the idea that we deal with it every day. There is no issue. Where is the issue?
Okay.
It's not in housing. It's equal housing. It's not in
It's
hiring.
unfortunate that you're not in connection with the community to know that it is indeed a possible issue. It is indeed an issue.
Okay, and that's time, and we allowed some latitude there, a little spice. Mayor Martin, your chance to ask a question of Patty Maury Walker, and we'll give you both 2.5 minutes to slug it out.
A realistic situation here with the new $70 million courthouse is complete in 2017. There'll be approximately 50,000 square feet empty on West Main Street, another 20,000 square feet at the Greenfield Corporate Center. Can you offer specifics of how and where you will start to rejuvenate these areas and create real and sustainable businesses?
Absolutely. Great question and good point, and looking forward to that. So traditional industry, I said, was great, but one of the things I'd like to talk about is thinking outside of the box and trying to attract places like the beverage center and the food processing center on Wells Street. What an amazing place. This is a place that's supporting, it's a business incubator, and it's supporting these small businesses and these entrepreneurs, these young entrepreneurs to come in and to build their product. And I hear that they're actually looking to move to another place, so that might be a great opportunity for them, and then also fill that with more of that. Again, traditional business, traditional industry, absolutely, we need to go out and market it. I think that the downtown, go out and market it, when we finish that statement, go and market it, but also to think about these other kinds of co-ops and incubators to help young entrepreneurs. The fact is I think that the more that we can have folks live downtown, the more vibrant that it will become. So that is something else that I would like to look at as far as the zoning and the possibilities for that.
The town council passed zoning for housing downtown to make it much easier, and that's all part of the smart growth. I would ask you, you bring up the point of continuously of bringing in non-tax producing businesses that will generate no taxes for the town in the budget and remove commercial property off the tax rolls. How do you
First of all,
see that?
I'm going to ask you back, what businesses were you talking about that I would bring in that wouldn't be generating taxes? And, you know,
the CDC and the food center.
There's businesses. Do you not know that there's businesses? The other thing is that look at the prime location. You've done great things for veterans, Mayor. I'll definitely say that. However, talking about using prime locations for non-revenue generating facilities, the Veterans Center is in a prime location downtown that would probably be better off and more accessible in another location. It's really difficult sometimes to park and to get there, but also it's a prime location for a revenue-generating business. So, I'll go back and ask you about that, about why you would use that center, a prime location. It's a location that we're paying a significant amount of rent for. Is that right? And instead of it generating tax revenue for us, we're paying rent for it.
Well, you're quite not aware of the situation. The Vietnam Veterans of Massachusetts, Inc. Have given the Veterans Center $1,000 a month for 5 years. They were paying for all of the space down at 114 Main Street, and now they're up here in a new regional center. That's the Franklin County Center for Veterans. They don't pay taxes, but they pay rent. The building owner pays taxes. The idea that we were talking about was the 50,000 square feet at the other end of West Main Street. That would be where Knapp's was. If you were here 20 years ago, you would know where that is. The other property down there in the juvenile and housing court is also moving out. That's a given.
Right.
So
Bring in
we can't
more
wait.
tax-generating businesses into those locations. And I have to say,
You were talking about how do you go out and do that.
I am talking about it.
You can't do it next year. You've got to do it now, which is what we're doing.
Earlier this week, Mayor,
With our marketing director and economic development, who are both very qualified and competent.
At the debate this week, you said that going out and marketing businesses, which is what I've been talking about is not the way to do things. That's what you said. I am telling you that that's what I would do. I would be proactive, day one, going out, marketing businesses.
The mayor doesn't go out marketing businesses. He makes contacts.
Well, read the
Our
sustainability
economic
plan.
development director does that.
Read the sustainability
It's not
plan.
unusual.
It's the practice I'm talking about. I'm talking about not just me. I can't do it alone. I never said I could. It's with an economic development officer. It's with our economic development
That's what
committee
we do.
to go out.
That's
You're telling me
occurring
that
already.
you would not. You just said
Patty Maury,
you would
it's
not.
already
It's Maury
occurred.
Walker.
Where do you
just
think these
said
businesses come
you just
from?
said you would not market business. And that's not the job of the mayor. I disagree. It's the job of the mayor to lead that activity, to go out. If things were going so well economically, we would not have the tax rate that we have
I want
now.
to allow
That's
Mayor
not true.
a final thought, and then
Okay,
we're going
the tax rate is a direct association with the valuation of real estate in Greenfield. That's it. Very simple. You can ask some of the former assessors for the town.
How do you
that
bring the
works.
tax rate
I'm going
down?
to answer the question.
How do you bring the tax rate
And
down?
then you had mentioned that where these businesses, the New England Natural Bakers, they have Greenfield as option B. They're still trying to work down on option A in Deerfield. The Conway Landscape School, they wanted Davis Street. It wasn't available because the school
Went to
committee
East
was there.
Hampton.
Okay.
Scuderi, they're in court.
Okay, we're going to stop it right there on that question. You're watching a debate,
This is local Greenfield.
a heated debate, Lakeland Douglas style, here on Greenfield Community Television and on the Recorder.com and GCTV websites. We're going to now go to the third question of this round, and this is actually your question, Patty Maury Walker.
It is.
And go ahead, fire away.
Mayor, at a WHMP was in town in May, and I was on the air and was talking about some of the differences between you and I. One of them was that I was against the biomass plant, which is what you were for. I said that I was definitely against the pipeline, something that you were for. And when your turn came, they specifically asked you, Patty Maury Walker just said you're against the pipeline, and your response was, why is she against the pipeline? Why isn't she for the pipeline? And then you went on to talk about how important the pipeline is. Now you're saying that maybe you never said you were against the pipeline. So let's just find out. Are you for or against the Kinder Morgan pipeline?
What WHAI
HMP.
HMP, when was that? The time I
May.
wasn't there?
Yeah.
No.
You were in
Mayor.
Boston.
May.
I was
No,
in
no, no,
Boston.
no. It was the May.
wasn't
the
there.
May.
Oh, that was the earlier one.
That was the May
Yeah,
one.
that was the first one we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, so what's the question?
Are you for or against the Kinder Morgan pipeline?
Where is it going through Greenfield?
That's not the question.
Where is it going through Greenfield?
So here's the thing, Mayor. You just talked about the fact that Greenfield is the
No, here's the-
capital.
here's what
Let
you're
me finish.
thinking.
You asked me a question. It's the capital of Franklin County.
Mm-hmm.
This pipeline would go through our neighbors, tearing up land, and it is such a threat to our Mother Earth. It's the opposite of sustainability. It's the opposite of environmental impacts that the
Okay,
city
let's-
can make. I want to finish my sentence. The fact that this is affecting our neighbors, our Mother Earth, and we're next door to them. The fact that you're saying you're a green mayor, this is a terrible threat to our community. You know how many people are up against this thing. It is something that we would be investing billions of dollars in a fossil fuel that we want to make obsolete. It doesn't make sense. The Harvard study said if we fix the current pipeline and the leaks that it currently has, we'd have plenty of gas. Maura Healey's report is still to come out. But are you for or against the pipeline?
Okay, now, allow me the time to explain this to you. So as mayor, you serve on the executive committee of the Franklin County Council of Governments. The Franklin County Council of Governments has desired to petition to be an intervener. So they asked all of the other towns to contribute money. They have to maintain a neutral position. As an executive member of that committee, I cannot have opinions on that particular issue. So the council, the COG, is doing the research on this now, hired an attorney, accepted money from a number of towns in Franklin County for the prime purpose of coming to mediation or mitigation or intermediary type of position with Kinder Morgan and FERC and the state.
Mayors, congressional leaders, our entire Massachusetts congressional delegation have all come out and made a statement up against this pipeline. I don't buy that you can't tell us your opinion, whether you're for or against this pipeline, which is a major issue right now facing Franklin County and the state.
On the environmental level, everyone is not interested in degrading or destroying anything that we have in Western Mass. On a supply level, it's hard to determine because Greenfield is in the process of a moratorium, or in the middle of a moratorium, and we are the end of the line, we're literally end of the pipeline in Greenfield. If the gas gets used up before it gets here, we don't get to use it. So we've already had several projects that have been delayed or alternative fuels put in place. Both of them, one is the opiate addiction center, had to use a different type of fuel, and the other one is the potential for New England Natural Bakers to be in Greenfield. They were not going to have the gas.
I had a conversation with Pam Clark just this week. She is the CEO of New England Natural Bakers. I wanted to ask her why she decided to go to Deerfield. She wanted to be in Greenfield. She was offered a site, the Bendix site, and they did their testing and found that it wasn't clean. They were offered no other sites, and they left for Greenfield. She absolutely told me that there was no way gas was involved in that decision. That's from Pam Clark, CEO of Natural Bakers.
Okay. Any final?
Just that the contamination of the Bendix property is in its final phase 5 with Honeywell. It has nothing to do with the town of Greenfield, but it is close, working with the state. There was no gas available for Bendix when NEHB or New England Natural Bakers is going to make that move.
Let's leave it right there. And now we have one more question in Lincoln Douglas, and it goes from Mayor Martin to Patty Maury Walker.
Did you answer my last question?
We don't have replay here, Mayor, so I can go back and check it.
The Greenfield operating
Did you answer
budget.
my last question?
The Greenfield operating budget has increased $6.5 million over the past 6 balanced budgets I have presented to the town council. This despite decreased revenues from the state and mandated increases in pension costs. We have expanded some programs and maintained services, solidified our reputation as a leader in best practices, and generated new revenue centers to relieve the burden on the property taxpayer and to stabilize the rate. Greenfield is ranked below 205 other communities that pay more. When specific departments would you cut, or how would you change the budget to continue this trend, knowing that a few $100,000 has minimal impact on the tax rate?
Well, first of all, I don't know if I would cut. You just talked about it all being level funded, and I commend you for that. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't really matter where we are, is what statistic we are, 200 or the second, and there's different ways to look at the tax bill. The bottom line is that what I am hearing out there when I'm knocking doors and talking to people is that one day their tax bill was one thing, and the next day it's not, and they can't afford it. I've talked to someone that's on a fixed income. Her parents are on a fixed income, and they just don't know how they're going to keep their house. I do admit, and it's not even an admission, it's a congratulations. We have done great things in Greenfield. There are businesses in Greenfield. Unfortunately, if there were more businesses, and you know yourself, in order to reduce the tax rate, we increased the tax base and we cut our spending. But if it was so economically developed and we were flourishing so much, we would not be having the tax situation that we have now. As far as cutting departments, again, I'll say it again, one of the first things I'd like to do is to use my management experience to go in, to check out how these departments are operating, talk to these folks, talk to the employees, talk to management, see if there are any efficiencies that would end up saving money, and maybe, support ones that are not, and transfer money. I think we just need to be creative. But you said, what would I cut? I wouldn't know. Why would I cut? It's not something that I would need to do.
Well, you'd have to do something if you had a level budget and you wanted to add some of the items you want to add. But I want to say, how are we as a town trying to group together to help people all across town no matter where they live or how they live. We are doing the electrical aggregation, which saves money for every person, everyone who pays an electric bill. We are setting up green lights, so everyone who pays the internet and whoever pays for a telephone will have a chance to save money there. That creates more discretionary income within their budgets, within their family budgets, so that they have an opportunity to help downtown strengthen itself. So there are a number of different ways. All our grant programs, housing rehab programs, the block grants that we offer for solar challenge and repairs of roof and emergency situations and boilers. We're constantly going around helping people in designated areas of town. We're always out there trying to help. If there was any new ways to do it, we would be doing it. And for the accounts and all the departments in town, we do this every year. We assess every department every year. Some of them, we drill down and do some very steep type of analysis to see if they're reaching their purpose with the staff that they have and the resources of town that they're using. So this is a given. This is what management does. This is how we craft a budget on an annual basis. We no sooner get one passed than we have to start doing another one. And so it's that quality improvement continuously all the time.
I'm not sure if you've spent much time talking to employees of the town there, because I have, and I think they would beg to differ. I think they're struggling and working hard. I think your hardline nose on unions, contracts, and health insurance. You know, I would save my hardline negotiation on businesses that leave polluted property in Greenfield instead of arguing for health insurance and union rights for our workers for the town.
And that's time on the final question from Lincoln Douglas. Now we're going to go into the lightning round. We're going to pick up right where we left off, because you guys put together some good questions, and the first one we're going to address is collective bargaining. And the first question will go to the mayor. You'll each have 60 seconds to respond to this question. Do you support the collective bargaining process for unionized town employees?
I certainly do, and we've just completed another 10 negotiations with 10 different unions. Over the past, since I've been mayor, we've done over 24 negotiated collective bargaining agreements. There are state laws and federal laws that govern the negotiation process. We bring forth our ideas just as they do, and we work together and negotiate until we get to an agreement. Sometimes we don't, but there's a process for that. So I don't see any problem. I certainly think everyone has the opportunity to negotiate their position.
Patty?
Absolutely support collective bargaining, and proud to say that I have the endorsement of the Franklin Hampshire Labor Council. Mayor, unfortunately, you brought an issue in front of the council where we would be limiting the negotiations for health insurance for unions, and luckily the council did reject your proposal. We have unfair labor practices. We're spending a lot of money on attorneys to dispute for disputed contracts. We have one with dispatch right now, unfair labor practice already filed. I think that my record with unions, with the work that I did at the City of Boston, and with this endorsement, will show you, or tell you, or should tell you that I'm stronger when we're talking about collective bargaining and dealing with unions.
Okay.
Oh,
good. We'll give you 15 seconds to rebut.
You were working with the unions in 1994. I think something's changed over that period of time. When you did your innovative process for the Boston Workers' Comp Group, it was 1997 when you were making presentations. So I think some of the regulations in the state have changed over that time. Just let me say that this was a state law that we were working with health insurance. It was the option. It was the option of communities to go before their town council and present the both sides of the coin for going to the GIC or having some reforming in health insurance. Greenfield pays 80% of the health insurance for every person who works for the town. It's a very generous contribution, and health costs go up on mandated basis. Greenfield this year has a fine with the Affordable Care Act by virtue of having a luxury plan. So it's not very much. Okay. It's only $25,000 or $27,000, okay. But that's something that we have to absorb.
Mayor, you took an extra 35 seconds. I'm going to afford you 35 seconds, just to be fair.
Yes, it is a state law, and it's a law that limits collective bargaining for the unions, and you tried to get it through the union, and it didn't go through. And you also tried to get civil service eliminated, and that also didn't go through. I may have worked with the unions in the 90s, the 80s, the 60s, the 50s. The bottom line is that I care about workers. And the laws may have changed. I still care about the worker, and that's my priority.
Okay, and that will end that exchange. You mentioned infrastructure earlier, and there is a piece of public safety infrastructure that's a real concern. That's Nash's Mill Road, the bridge specifically. The other night, the DPW director told the town council that it's going to be a long time before that bridge gets fixed, and there's even a concern that it may degrade to the point where it has to be closed completely. Patty, you get the first question on this. If you're elected, you take office, what are you going to do about that?
It's a good question. I wish I had the answer. I was there last night at the meeting and heard that it's going to take years. I don't know. Again, I just found this out yesterday, but it would certainly like to work with DPW and do more investigation. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe the mayor knows why it's going to take so long.
Mayor?
The priority for Nash's Mill Bridge with the Department of Transportation for the state is very low. Therefore, their estimate is 8 to 10 years for funding. Our plan is that we are going to, like we did with the covered bridge, move forward by ourselves and independent, using funds from the Chapter 90, which we're allowed to do for roads and bridges. So one scenario that we have $350,000 now in a design for the bridge, so that we'll be ready whenever any funds become available. But one scenario that could be developed is that we could dedicate $200,000 from Chapter 90 funds on an annual basis, borrow the $2 million that is needed to repair and replace the bridge immediately, and have Chapter 90 funds pay off that bond. So that would be no effect on a taxpayer. It would get the bridge done a lot quicker than 8 to 10 years from the Department of Transportation, and all we really need to do is keep prodding the state to come up with the funds for Chapter 90.
Okay. You've talked a lot about economic development in very broad terms. I want to give you each 60 seconds to tell me specifics on your plan for broadening the town's tax base. Mayor Martin, 60 seconds.
The expansion of the tax base has got to occur in areas that are already low. So at this point, there would be properties at Bendix. That would be an enormous opportunity. Anything that goes there is going to be a huge expansion of the tax base. The opportunity to quadruple the baseline of the Lunt property is in process right now. So that was a great opportunity. So we started out with basically in that property $2.2 million, and we'll end up with about $7 to $8 million tax base. One last thought is that when we lose this 50,000 square feet on West Main Street, we've got to be prepared to go in there and tear down those buildings or replace them. The town can't do that. So we've been working with the owner of the property for 2 years. We've been working with people and entities that want to move downtown. This is very critical, and as a matter of fact, it's in a critical stage right now. When we can put that together, we can have another doubling or tripling of the tax base in that block.
Okay. Patty Moore Walker?
I would hire a full-time experienced economic development officer that has experience in marketing as well. Work with that person, work with the economic development person to do what it says in the sustainability plan, and that is to market Greenfield and reach out to businesses and pull in particular businesses that are going to support certain socioeconomic folks here in Greenfield. I would give more support, I think, to the GBA. There's a part-time person, and I think that they need some support. So I'd love to do something there, and work also harder with the Chamber of Commerce. Again, I think Greenfield is a very marketable place. I think we can bring businesses in here. I think we need to think outside of the box. I think industry, what you said, is great if we can pull those folks in, but I also think that we need to be more creative and think about the millenniums and how we can bring them back in here, because that's our future.
May I respond?
I'll give you 20 seconds.
Okay, just that the Greenfield Business Association is not the Greenfield Business Association, so the town doesn't have anything to do with that. We can't support private businesses or private groups of businesses. So the GBA we work with all the time. We support and coordinate a number of different efforts on their behalf, but we can't sponsor them.
I didn't say anything about sponsoring. You just said that we can't support them, but then that we do support them. I think that as a cheerleader,
There'll be no funds
as the
going
cheerleader of
course we're the
Greenfield, you can
cheerleader.
absolutely
That's
do
the downtown
supporting.
we've been
You
talking
can
about.
absolutely support private organizations. Absolutely. Why would I not
That's how we
support
do it.
private organizations?
The GBA isn't going to be part of that.
Okay.
We're working together on downtown, strengthening downtown.
All right, so let's move on to one more question here. And Patty Moore Walker, you get the first crack at this. This probably won't take 60 seconds to respond to, but we'll give it a crack. Is Greenfield a city or a town, and why?
It is funny. That is the city known as the town of Greenfield. Legally, it's a city. We're a city, demographically, and we're a city. However, I do appreciate how people want to hold on to the town. In that term, it's something that I would really, love to focus on is the community, because I think that's what town means. That we're all part of this community, and that I would be a cheerleader for, as you said, cheerleader, I'm using that now, for involving all parts of this community that make up this wonderful town.
Okay, Mayor, city or a town?
We're a town. All our communication is town, except when we do federal grants. We want to make sure they know we're a city.
We're a city.
So when there's dollars attached, we're a city, but otherwise we're a town. Okay, very good. This next question goes to Mayor Martin. You both get a chance to answer it, though, but this goes directly to one of your opponent's attack points. Your opponent has said your administration is not transparent about the way it spends taxpayer dollars and that you have intimidated opponents into silence. How do you respond to that?
Geez, I don't think I've intimidated anyone with silence. We're pretty public. It's a public corporation. We have public hearings. We have public forums. All our records are open. We have FOIA's Freedom of Information Act, where anyone can come in and get anything. All of our records, our financial records, are reviewed by the Department of Revenue, reviewed by our finance department and accountant. All our plans are pretty public. We have a planning board and a zoning board and a sustainability implementation committee, and those are all public meetings that we discuss what we're going to do next. Even the $90,000 in the heating system on Davis Street was discussed several times at the school committee and our other town and school meetings.
Patty Moore Walker, you're the one that made the charge that the mayor is not transparent enough. What are your thoughts?
I said that the town, the government is not operationally and fiscally transparent. I absolutely deny that I said that he's strong-arm entering or whatever you said. That
I didn't
did.
say it. This is somebody in the audience that wrote this.
Okay. No,
I'm not assuming the question
I've
is
never
correct.
said that. I, as a private citizen, have tried to find out where our money's going. I've spent quite a bit of money to do that. In order to do that, you don't get that information going to a public hearing. You do that by requesting documents from the town, and I've done that. Unfortunately, I think the technology is so outdated that all of that has come in reams and reams of paper, and it's very, very difficult to figure out where money is coming from. I would love to get something implemented like Northampton and Amherst, where they have open checkbook, especially at this time when people are so frustrated with their tax rate and they want to know where their money is going. Let's have a system that they can go online and just have that access available. I know you talked to the state about possibly doing that as something down the line. I would make it a priority to do right away.
Just let me say that the Mass IT has given us a grant to do just that. The reason we haven't done it sooner is that for 8 months we've been converting from one software to a more modern software called Munis, and some of the town employees are here, and it's not easy, but everyone's making the change and transforming to the new software.
I think operationally we're also not very transparent. I think that decisions are made that really surprise residents, and I think that we could really have them not be so angry and upset if we would just share more information with them and have them be more part of the process. It's not fair to have a public hearing after the decision's already been made. And the dispatch is another example. Things are going on and they don't know about it. If they knew about it, they wouldn't be filing unfair labor practices.
Okay, that's time. This one also may not take that long, but we'll ask anyway. Patty Murray Walker gets the first crack at this. Should Greenfield ban plastic? Plastic bags, plastic bottles, and styrofoam?
I think yes. I think that it's good that it's going to be on the ballot. It's going to be great to see what the residents of Greenfield think about it. I think there's some fear with it. But I think that what was proven at a forum the other night is that other communities are doing this, and it's really not that big of a deal, that businesses are okay. I've spoken to small businesses downtown and asked them about it, and they're not seeing a problem with it. There are alternatives to plastic bags. It's canvas bags. It's paper bags. There is alternatives to styrofoam. So, as long as there are alternatives, and as long as we implement it in a careful way, in a way that we're educating folks so that they're not feeling overwhelmed, and working with businesses, if we're going to be green, then we need to get rid of plastic.
Mayor?
I think there's a potential for the vote on the plastic bags failing. I think that the styrofoam, from what I hear, there's some people thinking that it should be supported. I personally think that to being a green community would involve gathering up all of those plastic and styrofoam and having a waste to energy plant like they have in Springfield. We send it down there and they burn it, incinerate it, and we're pretty happy with that. When in fact we don't want it here. So I think we need to look in the mirror.
You had to bring that up, didn't you? Incineration thing. I'm sorry. Having biomass PTSD, I think. Go ahead.
I mean, the idea that we can do it within our borders and feel good about it is really not attacking the issue. So it's a broader issue. It's a federal issue, and it's even maybe a chemical and medical issue. So we can feel good about passing something. It's not going to change what happens the next town over. We're not going to lead the world. The whole idea that we can possibly pass these ordinances and have them have an impact on the global situation is a hard sell.
Patty, the mayor got an extra 20 seconds. I'm going to give you 20 more seconds.
I disagree. I think it starts from the ground up. Recycling and taking care of our earth starts from the ground up, and why can't we be a leader? It's not, though, that we be the first town to ban plastic. The question actually was, though, Mayor, should we ban plastic? Are you for it?
You need to determine what that plastic's going to be. So that's very broad. I mean, even the styrofoam question doesn't say styrofoam.
In the store,
the questions are invalid.
Are you for or against those plastic bags that you get in the store?
The questions are invalid, and the idea that we're talking about certain things for the whole world and trying to do it in Greenfield. So if you don't want to vote for me, then you will have to work out with the town council how the plastic goes, if it passes, is implemented. The idea that the council is going to be able to pass this in the next 2 months it's not possible.
Okay, Patty, I'm going to give you one more shot because he took an extra 30 seconds
It's not on the agenda for them to decide anything in the next 2 months. The fact is the non-binding questions that are on the ballot. We'll see what the people of Greenfield have to say, and we'll see how the council handles it.
Okay. We'll stop at that. Now, this is the last question before closing statements, and it's the last lightning round question. It's a pretty simple one. Whichever one of you are elected is going to serve 4 years. For the first time ever, it'll be a 4-year mayoral term, which puts you in office until 2020. So, Mayor Martin, you get the first crack at this. At the end of that 4-year term, if you're reelected, what will Greenfield look like in 4 years?
A visionary question. Greenfield will have bicycle paths. We'll have a cross-city hiking trails where you can ride and walk throughout the city. We will have CNG, compressed natural gas, for fuel for our fleets and the automobiles and buses, that we will have free transportation around town from French King to the Rotary to downtown. We will have Green Light will be generating income. Green Light is the internet access. That's question number 1. If we vote yes on number 1, we'll be able to form this municipal light plant. The money generated from that will be able to go to education, conservation, recreation, and preservation, very similar to a CPA. That's the Surcharge Preservation Act. So we would have the continued great schools. In 4 years, our new high school will be 4 years old. Our other schools we've put in enormous amounts of capital in all the other schools in town to make them energy efficient. We would have the opportunity one more time to look at Main Street and keep it strong and stay with the trends.
Patty Moore Walker?
In 4 years, I would really like it to be that we've moved closer to one Greenfield, not a new Greenfield and an old Greenfield, but one Greenfield where everybody feels welcome. I'd love to be that we have more of a bustling downtown. I'd love to see that the tax rate is heading downward and not upward, and I would like to see also that our school choice dollars, $2 million that we're spending for parents to not choose Greenfield schools, I'd love to see that be going downward and have a significant downward trend in 4 years.
Okay, now we'll go to closing statements. You'll each have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. This time we're going to go in inverse alphabetical order, which means Patty Moore Walker will get the first 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for this discussion. Thank you to our sponsors, and thank you to GCC for hosting this important event. This college will always have a special place in my heart. After a life-changing medical diagnosis where my partner came back to school here in Greenfield to pursue an alternative career, and it turned out to be her dream job. It's where my son has supplemented his high school classes with college courses and had the opportunity to meet a mentor like Ian Whitaker of the math department, who he absolutely adores. Congratulations to Bob Pura for heading such an amazing institution, one that needs to be an integral part of Greenfield. There are major differences between the mayor and I, as you can see, and so there is a choice to be made. I want Greenfield to thrive in education, business, and community. I think I can provide the innovative leadership and energy to make that happen. I would work to ensure that the good projects that have been started by Mayor Martin get completed successfully. I would work collectively with the hardworking employees of this town and support them in any way that I can so city services can be top-notch. I would work to keep the residents and taxpayers at the forefront in making decisions about the town. I would be proactive in economic development. We need to think differently, as I said. We need to think outside of the box. I would work to ensure the best opportunities and services for our seniors and our youth. I would work cooperatively and collaboratively with the school superintendent and school committee to get things done and ensure that our choice in numbers continue to increase while choice out decreases. Greenfield schools are doing amazing things, and I want that to be known as we continue to make them even better. I would prioritize the implementation of more of Greenfield's Master Sustainability Plan, and I would be available in and around this community at the many events that make it what it is in order to continue to learn from his residents. So please get out and vote on November 3rd at the Greenfield High School. I would truly appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Mayor Martin?
Thank you. I'm going to read off a list. It's Solar Farm, Greenfield Light and Power, Just Roots, investments in schools, LED streetlights, investments in buildings, budget increases, balanced budgets, green community recognition, leading by example recognition, community cabinet member, parks and playgrounds, playful city, Veteran Resource and Referral Center, new revenue centers, energy efficient vehicles, technology department, central maintenance department, energy department, union contracts ratified, collected taxes, multiple grants. There's a continuous list, and I could go on. The point I'm trying to make is that on a nearly every month basis since I've been elected, we have been able to accomplish something. We've been able to bring everyone together for the benefit of everyone. It's taken some sacrifice by the municipal employees when we were receiving 30% less revenue from the state. They took 0 cost of living increases and pay increases. They took 0.5%. We agreed in the beginning that if we all sacrificed now, that was the first term, then in the next term things would happen. It did happen, where revenues increased. Things worked out. We went back to the collective bargaining for the second time, and then we had adjustments and increases and pay increases for every municipal employee. What I'm saying that everyone is working together. It is not a bad thing happening in Greenfield. We have our issues just like many communities. We're putting some time into it. We're putting effort into it. We have teams all over town working within our departments and with citizens. We continuously try to do better for Greenfield. And if we think that we can't, then we won't. So we will always consider the fact that we can do better, we can achieve more, and we will do it. We're working on a number of different projects. I appreciate what Patty said about finishing the projects that we started. We have more. There are multiple opportunities in town, and we need to take advantage of them now. I ask for your vote on November 3rd. I appreciate it. I love the job. I take the job very seriously as mayor, and as I said before, I'm very proud to represent Greenfield all across the state.
How about a round of applause for our candidates? Thank you, Anita Fritz and Julian Moore. Mayor Bill Martin, Patty Maury Walker. Thanks for watching. Now, next week, we move the show downstairs to the Cone Dining Commons. This is the last equal time debate of the election season. Tomorrow, or actually next week, Thursday, we are going to have a town hall forum on education in Greenfield involving all the candidates, should they choose to show up, and the public, and members of the school committee, and the superintendent of schools. That's next week, downstairs, here at GCC at the Cone Dining Commons. You'll be able to watch it live, as always, on GCTV, as you can watch all these forums, as well as at gctv.org and therecorder.com. I'm Chris Collins. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming. And we'll see you in a week.